Barcelona are your Super Cup champions as they come out 3-2 winners against Real Madrid in a nail-biting game. This was a game that swung back and forth. We had that incredible period towards the second half. And ultimately, Barcelona come out on top again in the El Clasico. Of course, there was that defeat in October, but in the last few games, this has been Barcelona's game. As I said in my video on Nigeria, I didn't really know what to expect with Barcelona. Ultimately, they've gone on to win the game, and I think we were the better side. But I think the team I want to start off with talking about is Real Madrid, the losers of the night, and the team who are probably under the most pressure after today's result. I think with Real Madrid, the state in which this club is in right now, I have so many questions. Firstly, you can talk about today's performance and how in that first half, they pretty much completely gave the game to Barcelona. They had about 26% possession. They had 5 shots, all of them being on target, and didn't even generate up to 1 expected goal in the first half. Now, I don't see these stats because I'm a stat nerd or I'm a tactical. I'm telling you these stats because if anybody watched that first half, you would be able to see that Real Madrid went into that first half and completely told themselves, we are just going to absorb as much pressure as we can. They came into the game with a midfield three of Tchouaméni, Camavinga, and Jude Bellingham, who I thought were going to really impose themselves in this game. But really and truly, Tchouaméni, literally the moment the game kicked off, tucked into the back two, became into a back three, a back five, if you'd like to call it. And it felt like Barcelona were just trying to pick at Real Madrid, and Real Madrid were just taking the punches as it came. Ultimately, Barcelona did not really create much in the first half, but towards the end of the first half, the Rafinha goal came, and then the Lewandowski goal came. Going the other way, there wasn't really much for Real Madrid, especially in that first half. Barring the last few minutes of madness in the first half, Real Madrid created next to nothing. They had 2 chances where they were in on goal, and they kind of just became tame shots. But fully game speaking, they didn't really create any chances through their own making. It was more Barcelona's defense being leaky. I thought the way they set up really negated most of their best players. Tchouaméni had a great game. I thought he was able to really show you his great qualities in the game. Playing in that deeper area, it allowed Real Madrid to build up a lot better, even though they did resort to just hoofing the ball forward many times despite having an extra player in the defense. I thought I thought Jude Bellingham and Camavinga were completely isolated in the midfield, particularly considering they were up against 3 players in Fermin, Pedri, and Frenkie de Jong, who I thought both had great games. I just felt like the way Xabi Alonso set them up in that first half, it made sense considering everything, and going into the second half, it probably was vindicated. And I felt like it was a system set up by Real Madrid to really just absorb as much as they could and then bring on Kylian Mbappe and see where they can work from there. But I don't really understand why they went into the game with that sort of game plan, considering the fact, albeit it was against Betis, albeit it was against Atletico Madrid, but their last 2 games have looked pretty good without Kylian Mbappe. I thought the system was starting to figure itself out. I think Jude Bellingham higher up the field is a more effective player, and you've seen that in the last few games. I did think they were coming into a bit of form. The press looked good. The setup just looked a bit more clean than it has in previous games. But for some reason in this game, Xabi Alonso completely threw that away and basically told the team, okay, you guys are going to absorb, and then the attackers are going to do their best to create something out of nothing. And the one player who did do that for me was Vinicius Jr. Vinicius Jr. in this game, we'll come to talk on the player who he was up against in the Barcelona defense. But Vinicius Jr. today was absolutely sublime. Every time he received the ball, running at his man, it looked like the Vinicius Jr. of 2-3 years ago. The Vinicius Jr. that arguably some people would say should have won the Ballon d'Or. Today you saw everything good about Vinicius Jr. because I feel like Vinicius Jr. is a player who he doesn't thrive on confidence. He doesn't thrive on doing well in the moment. He's a player who has a short-term memory. Irregardless of whether he gets past you or not, he's going to keep coming at you over and over again. And I thought you saw that trait once again in his game, which we haven't seen in recent games or even recent months, where it feels as though he kind of feels sorry for himself. He doesn't even go into these duels with a lot of confidence and a lot of assertiveness. It feels as though he's kind of holding himself back. But in today's game, he looked completely up for it. And up against Jules Koundé, who was kind of tripping over his own feet. To be very honest, Vinicius Jr. was the best player on the field. And I completely side with him. The way in which he walked off when he was substituted, which for me, I don't really understand that substitution. I'm not even a Real Madrid fan. I'm a Barcelona fan. I'm supporting the opposition. But for you to take off the player who's arguably your best player, probably not even arguably, your best player on the field, why is that something you would go on and do? He was the only one who was creating chances. He was the only one creating chaos. Him and Rodrigo on that left-hand side. So for you to take him off, I didn't really understand that substitution from him. And now that situation looks very, very icy. It looks like a situation that Real Madrid needs to fix sooner rather than later because the way things are going, it's either Xabi Alonso or Vinicius Jr. I don't know who will ultimately be the person that the club sides with. I probably believe it's going to be Vinicius Jr. because Xabi Alonso has been walking on eggshells in recent months. But if Xabi Alonso does want to stay in this job, I feel like a decision he made tonight, albeit if you want to take off Vinicius Jr. whenever he's not playing well, which he hasn't been playing well for a long period for the last year, that's perfectly fine. But when Vinicius Jr. was playing as well as he was tonight, I don't think that was the right call whatsoever. And then you see him bring on a player like Kylian Mbappe. And this whole Kylian Mbappe discourse, to be very honest with you, I really don't understand. This is one thing I've always noticed with Real Madrid throughout my years watching them. Whenever they have a player who's probably not fit to play the game, probably not fit to play in a certain time period, it always feels as though somehow, some way, they find a way to get this player back in time. Somehow. You will see news reports saying that the player's out for 4 weeks, or the player's out for 6 weeks, or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, by miracle, they're back after a week and a half. And it really makes you think, what are these guys doing in the medical team? Now, I'm not throwing any propaganda. I'm not trying to spin any narratives. But it's very, very questionable in my opinion. Someone like Kylian Mbappe flew to Saudi Arabia. The guy was in Spain. He didn't even fly with the squad for the semifinal. I'm stumped for words. Was it supposed to be an intimidation factor? Was it supposed to be we're going to bring him on for the final 10 minutes and see what he can do for us? Because why risk a player who is arguably your best player for a Super Cup? I would understand it if it was the Champions League or if it was a big game in the league. Say this was the El Clasico in probably May or April. Fair enough. But this is a Super Cup game. Yes, it's Barcelona, but it's a Super Cup game. At the end of the day, no one really cares about this tournament. It's just a fancy friendly played outside of the country. It's not the end of the world if Kylian Mbappe doesn't play. And after that first half where Real Madrid were the second best side, comfortably, you're still going into the second half 2-2. Keep it the way it is. Maybe bring on a few other players to impact the game. Why bring on a Kylian Mbappe who was very clearly not fit? We saw it in those moments that he was on the field. This guy is not fit. I think he got 3 or 4 touches of the ball in about 25 minutes that he was on the field. There was no point. There was no point bringing him on. There was genuinely no point. And I feel like Real Madrid right now, they exist just to appeal to Kylian Mbappe. It doesn't really matter what the team is doing, how the team is performing. It feels like as long as Mbappe is happy, then we're happy. But that's not how football works. Then, of course, we need to talk about Barcelona, winners of this trophy. We won this trophy last year in a much more convincing fashion. And to be very honest with you, I thought the first half was a very good performance from Barcelona. I think we played very well. I think we controlled the game. We didn't create many chances in the opening 25, 30 minutes. But I think around the 30-minute mark, once the cooling break ended, you started to see an increase in tempo. I think Hansi Flick really drilled into them and let them know, you guys need to speed things up. After the cooling break, of course, Rafinha scores to make it 1-0. We had a few chances where Lamine Yamal plays it in behind. Rafinha misses it. Loose touches here and there. There were a lot of half chances we had in that first half. And going into the second half, it was very disappointing to see that it was 2-2. And this is one thing I always say with Barcelona and Real Madrid. Barcelona and Real Madrid are two completely different illustrations of what football represents. Barcelona are your academy-based, more than a club, depending on the youth, the players who are developed at the club. Real Madrid buy players. Barcelona believe in playing beautiful football and winning beautifully. Real Madrid just win. Barcelona believe in slowing the game down, controlling the game, controlling the tempo. Real Madrid love chaos. We are two completely different opposites of what this sport represents. So in today's game, when Barcelona are controlling the game as they are, and then you get into basically a basketball match against Real Madrid, you were never going to win that match. And towards the end of the first half, I felt as though Barcelona needs to control the game better. They need to slow it down. There was a pass that Eric Garcia played straight to Lewandowski that Tchouaméni intercepted that led to the first goal. A fantastic goal by Vinicius Jr., by the way. But that goal doesn't even happen if Eric Garcia realizes the second half is about to come. Slow the game down, keep the ball, and keep it ticking. But luckily for us in that second half, the game was a lot less chaotic. It was more chaotic in the sense that the game was start-stoppy. But I think we controlled the game better in the second half. I think Real Madrid didn't really create much in that second half. Vinicius Jr. was very lively at moments, but he wasn't as lively as he was towards the end of the first half. I think the way Barcelona controlled the game was more of a sense of picking your moments. I think players today who really shone, in my opinion, like Frankie de Jong and Pedri, as always, I thought that midfield would get completely outrun by Real Madrid's. But when you have Tchouaméni dropping as deep as he was today, I think Pedri and de Jong were basically giving free rein to control the midfield. I think players like Rafinha, once again, he wins man of the match today. And honestly, I keep on saying this, Rafinha is one of the most underrated players in world football. The level that this guy is showing us is ridiculous. To have gone from the level that he was at Leeds, to the level that we're seeing now at Barcelona is nothing short of a miracle. Game after game, he looks like he's improving. He starts the press. He leads the intensity. He continues to be a real pillar in this team for Barcelona. And today, whether by hook or by crook, Rafinha is going to get on the score sheet. He gets chance after chance. The opposite flank, Lamine Yamal, who I didn't think had his best game today. And to be very honest with you, I think Real Madrid have done great scouting because the left back that played today against Lamine Yamal, of course, they acquired him from Benfica over the summer, Alvaro Carreras. I think Alvaro Carreras was one of the few left backs I watched last season, and I told myself, this guy has Lamine Yamal in a headlock. Ultimately, Barcelona won those games against Benfica, of course, but when Lamine Yamal played against him, in I think it was about 3 or 4 times they played against each other, Carreras had him in a headlock every single time. And when he came to Real Madrid, I looked at that signing and I said, Lamine, you're going to need to up your game. And in these 2 times they played each other, I feel like Lamine Yamal has been, I won't say he's been completely iced out of the game because he's such a good player, he's going to have moments, but I think his influence has been minimized as much as it possibly can. Of course, irregardless of that, I still think he had a few bright moments, the passes in behind, the few dribbles. That's what you're going to get with Lamine. Lewandowski as well, 37 years old. I don't think you can really expect too much from Lewandowski. You're not going to get those complete number 9 performances anymore. The guy's 37. But I thought he did with his job today. I thought he offered us something that Ferran Torres does not offer whatsoever, which is the ability to play the ball long. It sticks to him. He flicks it on. He brings others into play. That is one thing that if Ferran Torres had in his game, Ferran Torres would probably be one of the best strikers in the world. And then you look at the goal that Lewandowski scores as well. That's just a striker who's been playing at the top level for almost 15 years, probably even more. A striker who's able to score goals, whether it be a chip, near post header, far post, penalties. Lewandowski can do it all. He's so versatile in his ability to score different type of goals. If you had put Ferran Torres in that position, I don't even want to know what would have happened. But of course, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Barcelona. I do think there is a lot to take from this game and things that really and truly we've seen throughout the season. Once again, this defense is not good enough. Of course, I was listening to the ESPN broadcast, and to be very honest with you, I listened to that broadcast on mute because Steve McManaman, I really don't know why they get a former Real Madrid player to do Barcelona games. So I listened to it on mute. But today I said, you know what? Let me listen to it. And he talked about how Barcelona is not going to win the Champions League, and I subscribed to that notice because the defense is not good enough. Today, Pau Cubarsí and Jules Koundé, wow, the performances from the two of them today, literally getting run around by a Vinicius Junior player who has not scored a goal since October. He has not scored since October, and today he looked like 2023 Vinicius. Jules Koundé, I really don't know what to say with him. His performance levels have dropped dramatically in the last few months, probably since about the end of last season. You could say around March, April. His performance levels have been poor, so poor. Pau Cubarsí, of course, we continue to say, oh, he's only 19, he's only 19, he's only 18. His performance levels have not been good enough. Eric Garcia was good today. I don't think Alejandro Balde was challenged as much as Real Madrid probably would have wanted, but that's always going to happen when you don't even have an actual right winger playing. Your right winger, Rodrigo, is not even playing right wing. But again, that defense, the amount of chances we surrender to the opposition, it's not good enough. And then towards the end, you see the Frankie de Jong red card, which in real time I didn't think was a red card. And even when I saw the replay, I can understand why he gave a red card. His leg is high, but I don't think he's going into the challenge with any sort of violent intent or any sort of real malice. But nevertheless, that's just La Liga referees for you. But with 10 men, you look at I've seen some teams like an Arsenal, like a Chelsea, who go down to 10 men and they perhaps get even better. They sit deep and they really withstand what it is the opposition is bringing. But in those brief minutes that Barcelona were down to 10 men, we gave up 2 big chances that on any other day probably would have been goals. And you're looking at a penalty shootout, possibly even losing the game towards the end. And again, I say it, after how well Barcelona played throughout the game, after how well we played in that first half, after how well we dominated the game, we should have not even been in that situation where the game is only 3-2. From that first half performance, we should have been 1, 2, maybe even 3 goals up. I don't say that because we created an abundance of chances, but I think we controlled the game as well as we could. I think we held Real Madrid in their own third. But when you don't take those chances, that's what's going to happen. And I think that's the major difference between Barcelona last year and Barcelona this year, is that we don't take our chances as much as we did last year. If you gave Barcelona 4 chances last season, we're scoring 3 of them. Whereas this season, sometimes we don't even score any. And then when you have a defense that's as leaky as ours is, and we play a line as high as we do, it's ultimately going to lead to games where you're losing to teams that you probably shouldn't be losing to. It's going to work in La Liga because we're much better than everyone in La Liga, barring Real Madrid. And even Real Madrid, I don't even think Real Madrid are that good of a team. But when you go to the Champions League, when you play against better teams, I look at an Arsenal, for example. I look at a Paris Saint-Germain, a Bayern Munich. Those sort of teams will pick you apart. Let's not make it all doom and gloom. It is a trophy at the end of the day. It is a win over the eternal rivals, Real Madrid. And I'm hopeful that this season can be the year we win the Champions League. Do I think it will happen? Who knows? Hansi Flick is desperately asking the board for defensive support, and they're giving him Joao Cancelo. But this is the reality that we live in. We don't have money at this football club. But, of course, as I always say, let me know what you guys think about everything that we saw in the game today. Who were you supporting? Are you a Barcelona fan? Are you a Madridista? Let me know all of that and a whole lot more down in the comment section down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Quick one. This year, I'm setting myself a huge goal. I don't know if it will happen. Let's see. But if you guys watch the videos, if you enjoy the content, please, 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 if you're not subscribed already, subscribe to the channel. Hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers this year. That is my huge goal for the year. We have about 11 and a half months to do it. 300 subscribers away. Let's reach for the stars and hopefully we fall in the clouds. But of course, as I said, let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Like, share, subscribe. Take care of yourselves.